Hello and welcome to another Cliff Reviews Art House. This time I'm reviewing the film Persona, directed by Ingmar Bergman. Now, I've really enjoyed the Ingmar Bergman films I've seen. I've probably seen around 8, I think. I think he made 48 feature films. So there's a lot more that I do need to see. He is an amazing auteur, and obviously he's had a massive influence on cinema history. And I must say that all of the films I've seen of his are compelling, even if they're not always entertaining. And what do I mean by that? His films are really earnest, they're really weighty, they feel intellectual, they feel deeply psychological, they're often really avant garde. So they're not necessarily always kind of an enjoyable watch, but they do feel like they're really meaningful and have, considerable heft. Persona is an extraordinary film. It's full of deep meaning, it's quite unsettling, it's really compelling. It still feels avant garde today. We've realised right from the beginning that it's not conventional, that it's kind of got this weird experimental start that's really abstract and unsettling and even thrilling. The fourth wall is broken a number of times in the film, and of course, this is a bit of a theme that occurs in other Bergman films, but I do like this. The whole film feels kind of really audacious and bold. It's saying a lot, but the sets are very empty and sterile. The whole thing could easily be done as a play on a stage. And at the same time, we have these random images that interrupt the film, a kind of Buddhist monk setting himself on fire, a spider, the nails going into Jesus's hand on the cross. The whole thing isn't necessarily a coherent whole. It's more perhaps like a stream of consciousness. Definitely the feeling of a therapy session, but somehow it does all fit together into something. It's a film about an actress, Elizabeth, who falls silent while she's performing. She's hospitalised and then she goes away to a summer house with her nurse, Alma. So for the main part of the film, we literally just have the two characters. And the interesting thing is that only one of them is talking. It is effectively a monologue, but it's not, because Elizabeth is at times quite expressive, so her presence is very much felt. It's definitely not just one person talking, even though it is. Perhaps it replicates talking with a therapist, perhaps talking to God. It's an interesting process because you realise that as Alma is speaking, eventually kind of truth and inner secrets start to emerge. It's hard to identify clear themes here. One theme is the role of motherhood and abortions, resenting a child. There's obviously something here about personas. The title gives it away. Elizabeth is an actor where she adopts different personas, and we know little of her persona when she goes silent, but Alma reveals a lot about her persona and the ambiguity between her and Elizabeth, the confusion, the mixing of the personality and the faces. It's all super intriguing. I love how Elizabeth does speak in the film through the letter that Alma isn't supposed to read, or is she supposed to read it? Maybe there's even a comment here about film. When the fourth wall is broken, we do at one point see the film crew, and perhaps this is saying that film is a created reality like a persona. The cinematography in this is great. The black and white images are really haunting and compelling. The lighting is amazing. There's really close shots of the faces. Of course, the cinematographer Sven Nykvist is Bergman's long-term collaborator. They made many films together. One question mark that I do have over this film is whether it's somewhat gendered. It's certainly a female-centric narrative, and it's covering themes like motherhood and sexuality from a feminine perspective. I do wonder whether the little boy that we see looking through the glass at the woman at the start and the end of the film is a child that's abandoned by his mother. The conversations on motherhood and children have a prominence in the film, so much so that Alma's critique of Elizabeth's selfishness in relation to her son is actually repeated twice. I really love this device, the repetition of the same dialogue twice, but it does tell us that it's important. Is this somehow a critique of women who have children and then find that they get in the way of their lives, and this then leaves the child feeling abandoned? This makes me think like the whole thing is a kind of therapy session. I've Googled it and it doesn't seem as if there is very much criticism of Bergman films for being gendered. I'm not of the view that a man can't make a film about women or vice versa, but inevitably I think we have much more awareness today about the male gaze, and I think that Persona is very much from the perspective of the male gaze on the deep psychological states of these two female characters. The one thing that I'm really not sure about in this film is the story that Alma tells about having sex on the beach with some boys. I do wonder whether this is a little bit of a male fantasy about what one of these characters might do if she was going to act out around sex. This is actually what made me wonder whether anyone would consider the film gendered. Listen, even if it is a bit gendered, and it's definitely reflecting the male gaze, this is an amazing film. It's an amazing artwork. It doesn't feel like an old film. It still stands as a pretty incredible contemporary artwork today. It's absolutely unmissable for anyone interested in cinema. I highly recommend it. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.